Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Target Transfers podcast, the number one heat printing podcast in the world. Today, Andy and I are delighted to be joined by Kat and Simon from Ralawise, back for a second episode. And we're going to be talking to you all about garments that are going to be trending for 2023 and any advice that the leaders in blank apparel can give you for your heat printing business this year. So, Simon and Kat, how are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you.
We're good. It's at the time of recording. It's that period where there's snow everywhere and it's very cold. But yeah, we're good and well.
Good. How's everything been for you guys over the last couple of months since we've last spoken? It's been a while, hasn't it, since our last episode?
Yeah. It's been busy, hasn't it? It's been a crazy couple of months.
Yeah, quarter four. So October, November, December, to put it in normal speak, is always a busy one for us. You've got that sort of leading into Christmas build up, and then the Black Friday thing. And as our customers and our listeners will know, we're sort of one step ahead of the end user, aren't we? So Black Friday for us really starts mid-September onwards. So it's been a very, very busy period, and I think we're all due a well-earned break at Christmas.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Have you seen any sort of new trends around sort of the Christmas New Year time for this year? I know we're going to touch on things for 2023 and what's new and what people should be looking out for, but is there anything since we've last spoken to you that you've sort of been like, wow, that's taken off and we haven't expected it to, or any particular things that come to mind off the top of your head?
The main one's probably the sort of oversized loungewear or sort of casual things. So hoodies, sweatshirts, that type of nice cozy products that's lovely to gift. So I think a lot of our mutual customers will be involved in gifting and that sort of thing at this time of year. And there's a really nice range of heavyweight hoodies and sweatshirts out now. So we've seen some nice sales there and some lovely color choices as well. It's not just black and navy anymore. There's all kinds of color shades out there. So that's been a nice story for us. I
think you're repping one of them today as well. You're in the nice orange tone cross neck.
Thank you. It's a lovely thick one. It's an AWD JH201, the cross neck hoodie. So it's one of my winter favorites.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Okay, so we may as well get stuck into it straight away. So what would you guys, obviously the main thing I wanted to talk about today with the people that are listening are going to be either already running a heat printing business or potentially thinking about starting one in 2023, which I think a lot of people are thinking about doing and venturing into sort of the side hustles and everything like that. So is there any advice that you'd give for heat printers or just business owners heading into the new year that you think would be really vital for them to consider or think about?
I think the most important thing is for them to just get in touch with us. So as a supplier, we're really open to kind of helping new businesses, and we want to kind of get that across to people. If they've got any questions about products or anything like that, they can just give our new business team a call. We can talk them through the process. And if they are new and they're not having to, wanting to take loads of stock, full boxes of everything, they don't have to. It's a relatively kind of cost-friendly business to get into. So yeah, if they just get in touch with us, we can talk them through it, sure.
And as an extension of that, we've for existing customers, we've got a really good field sales team as well. So I think you're probably only ever an hour away at the most from one of our sales reps. And if you're comfortable, we are doing face-to-face meetings now. We test regularly for COVID. At the time of recording, we're still in that sort of space. But we'll meet you at a coffee shop or at your workshop, your factory. We can do meetings over Teams or WhatsApp, phone calls, any which way you like, really. But as Kat said, I think partnering up with your consumable suppliers such as yourselves and your garment suppliers such as us, and really tapping into that industry expertise of what's new, what's coming up, what to look out for in the next couple of months, what to be thinking about selling and sampling, all that sort of information. We just eat, sleep, live and breathe it, and also how to market it. So I won't take up the whole podcast on that point, but I think getting cozy and intimate with your suppliers is probably top of the list of any advice I'd give to a new or existing printer.
Yeah,
I think that's a good point as well, because traditionally, I think in the UK, a lot of people have kind of waited for I don't know, Printman promotion to come around. Like, okay, well, I'll find out what's new at Printman promotion, but it is only once a year, and consumers' tastes are not once a year. They can't be set once every 12 months. And you see that in high streets, you see it online. Everywhere it's forever changing. It's not 4 seasons anymore. There's 10, 12 seasons. So I think by having that relationship with someone like yourselves is you can like, okay, what's new, what's going on. A lot of the blanks companies we've spoken to, actually, we had when orders were on a couple of weeks ago, they're like, actually, we've got 8 different launches just for our hoodies planned for the next year. So there's always going to be something new and exciting, but it means that by having that regular contact, you're not going to be missing out. You're not like, oh, I wish I knew about that, because if it's a summer color, you need to know about it in February, March to be ready for July, August, not like in June ready for July, because it's too late. You've not got the chance to market it. You've not got a chance to talk to your customers about it. But by being able to meet face to face as well means you you can see what the color looks like in real life, and you can see what it feels like in real life. You can see the stitching, because it's all part of them being able to take that product and tell the story to your customers, and then for them to tell their customers onwards as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you get a product in somebody's hands, it makes it so much easier for them to sell it as well. They can touch it, feel it, actually see what the fabric's like. So it does make a big difference.
For those that are kind of listening and watching, so I guess trying to put yourselves in the people's listening shoes. It's obviously you have so many different products, and there's so many, because you cater for, like ourselves, you cater for every market. But how would you, if you were taking something to a customer, which you would then, how would you then, how many things would you take to a customer? I guess I'm trying to think of them presenting on to their customers. You don't want to take 100 things.
Yeah, one of every
You
color.
kind of want like 5
You
or
need a
10.
big van.
Yeah. If anyone is kind of like thinking about bringing some new products out for next year, but doesn't want to overwhelm their customer or their customer's customer, how would you advise people to approach that?
Something that I used to do, so I used to go out a lot and see customers when I first started at Ralawise, and something that I always used to do and encourage customers to do was to have like a good, a better, and a best of some of the core products. So you pick like, an entry level price point, great product still, and then you pick something that's a little bit more premium and then take your top end. So for example, like a hoodie, you could have 3 different hoodies, 3 different t-shirts, 3 different sweatshirts, and that's a really like easy, basic way to start if you're quite new to it. Or build packs for different sectors. So like a uniform pack where you've got like polo, fleece, jumper, that kind of thing. And just that was the thing that I used to do a lot and encourage customers to do. And it seemed to work pretty well for them. Makes it a lot easier.
I suppose it gives your customers the choice with the price point as well. Like if they don't want to go too much into that top level, they've got the option for a slightly better cost effective, I suppose. But then if they do want that premium quality, they have both options. So I think that's it's a brilliant piece of advice.
I think it's exactly what Kelly from Styles said last week when we spoke to her, around the same sort of advice of what's new, what to think about for next year is the good, better, best option. Because like you say, most of the time they're going to go for the middle or the top one, but it always helps to know, putting that serving suggestion in front of them, they kind of like, okay, well, I know what I don't like now, at least. Even if they pick different colors, or they're like, yeah, that's nice, but can you do it like this? Can you do that hoodie with a cross neck or something different? Then you're like, okay, yeah, I know exactly what I need to do.
I think so often in our industry, we can be guilty of making the decision for the customer. So I think there's enough products for us to give the customer a choice, as we've touched on, and let the customer make the choice, and they, we can guide them down that journey and that sales journey. But ultimately, the customer should make the decision, unless they say, "I want you to recommend something to me, which I'm going to do this, that, the other in." And then we can advise as well. But I think the customer making the decision and having a choice is always important.
Yeah, and circling back around to what you said earlier, Kat, about not having to hold stock and having those low minimum orders means that not only for the whole print on demand thing that we've spoken about a few times on the podcast, but also when you're trialing those products for the first time, you don't need to order like a minimum of 10 or 50 to get it and go, actually, I don't like that one. And then you've got 50 garments that you're going to waste or, not use or not be happy to sell. So I think that's another really good point that obviously people need to be aware of, the fact that you don't have to order loads and loads and loads of garments regardless of what you're printing on.
we'll often say to people, order something in your size, wear it, trial it yourself, because if you like it and you're confident in it, then you're gonna be more confident selling it as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice actually, because you kind of, it goes through every activity that way. You could be wearing it at work, you could be wearing it around the house, and then you're like, okay, actually, it's a bit like when we always advise customers on when they're taking a vinyl cutter and some vinyls, like try and break it. It's a bit like the same thing with clothing, really. You should go like, okay, what is the most extreme circumstance that anyone will be wearing your product, will be wearing it in, and then try and replicate that, or wash it and then wash it hot and tumble dry it, like you shouldn't do for most clothing, just to see what happens, because then you're like, okay, I understand why I don't want my customers to do this now.
Yeah, definitely makes a big difference trying it.
I think just looking at it from the point of view of someone who's quite new to our industry, when you look at polo shirts on Ralawise.com, we've got something like 180 different polo shirts. And even we look at them sometimes think, wow, well, there's a lot of choice there. What's the difference between them? So a good bit of advice we give to new customers, if they're not sure which polo shirt or which garment to recommend, first ask their customer what they're going to be doing in them. Are they outdoors? Are they going to be getting dirty? Is it in a warehouse? Is it a kind of front of house scenario? And we can understand then what garments are likely to be a good fit. And again, if the customer wants to call us or call our sales rep and say, I'm selling to a chain of stores, or I'm selling to a warehouse environment, or I'm selling to a front of house at a nice chain of hotels, whatever it is, give us a call and we'll come up with that good, better, best product menu for them as well. And we can even tell them why we're going to suggest those garments, what properties they've got, what value it's going to offer the end user, why it would suit their environment. So again, these are things that I think we know, but to expect our customer to know is probably a bit of a big ask, certainly in the new stages of their business. But again, we can share all of that.
Yeah, it's quite overwhelming, isn't it? Because there are so many options out there. And for somebody who is going on and looking at that one order, or so they just want that one T-shirt or 2 or 3 different types to try, and they see all of the options and they're like, whoa, okay, where on earth do I start?
Yeah, totally. And we've all been there, on I think on mine and Kat's first day, we probably had 25 or 30 brands. And now we've got over 120. So we've had the good fortune of seeing these new brands come in, and we've had the training sessions and seen the product lines develop, and the technologies that you guys use as well. We've seen that come through, and the possibilities and capabilities of our industry now are huge for such a little investment to get into it. But again, it can be a bit overwhelming on both sides. And I think what's lovely about Target and Ralawise is you can come to us and say, this is what I'm trying to do. This is who I'm selling to. I'm quite new to this. What do I use on the Target side? What do I use on the Ralawise side? And we can send them off with a kit and a selling suggestion, and teach them how to pitch it and how to sell it to their customer as well.
There's a good point as well, because I'm sure you're probably not allowed to list any, but I know for a fact that, much like ourselves, we have a few sort of high profile clients we can talk about. Like we've done our colleagues in the US do the Super Bowl, and they've done something with the NBA. But if you go online, and once you kind of start to go on the Ralawise website, then go online and start looking at stuff, you'll start to be like, I recognize that, I recognize that, I recognize that. Is that a lot of big brands and a lot of very successful UK-based companies are buying their garments from you. They're just relabeling them or something like that. But there's lots of big account customers that you have that you're not allowed to talk about, but lots of people are just getting blank garments from yourselves and some transfers or some vinyl screen printing T-shirts and making a real success out of it. So you can essentially go straight to the top level and buy the same products as many of the bigger brands in the UK already.
Yeah,
you bang on. We come in on a Monday after a weekend, and you'll be looking on Instagram or ASOS or Boohoo or whatever, well-known shopping stores, and we kind of say, oh, look, I saw this, and doesn't it look great? And I think it's now that's because we're a bit geeky and a bit sad about it.
Yeah.
But it's surprising how much of our product is on the high street, is on the internet, and people are making a really good margin on it. And that kind of gives us as much as a thrill as the product itself, because ultimately we're trying to offer our customers, our mutual customers, a business in a box, a way to make a good living, and the added value sale. I think we like the product when it's plain and blank. We appreciate its quality and its aesthetics. But when a piece of artwork goes onto it, be it a really subtle chest logo or a really nice big print, it just takes on a whole new life, you know, and that personal touch is really special, and it caters to the individual's tastes and preferences. So I think for me that the key mark of a good garment is when I can't quite tell if it's from us, but I think it is, but I can't find any proof or anything. Oh, you've done a really good job of retagging and rebagging that one.
It's amazing what you can do with like just a plain t-shirt and an idea and
Crazy.
you know some means to decorate it. It's really cool, like how far it's come over the last 10 years at Ralawise now. It's evolved so much, and you know it's just all it takes is one idea and that's it.
So if for people that phone up, I mean, I guess it, like you say, it kind of depends on what is the end result they're trying to achieve. But do you have any kind of like go-to products that you would recommend anyone when they're sort of doing their first garment decorating, like 2 or 3 t-shirts or hoodies? You like, these are the ones that I would try out. Or if you were thinking about starting your own clothing brand, which ones would you go for to get started with?
Controversial.
I know, yeah, that's a good question. I'm wearing one of them.
I think that's probably philosophy number one, is we wear our own products. So from warehouse through to office, we believe in the philosophy of you know, we wouldn't wear what we wouldn't sell, or if we're going to sell it, we should wear it too.
Yeah.
So to that extent, there's probably no favorites or go-tos per se. But what I would say is there's probably 10 or 12 different t-shirts, 8 or 10 different hoodie brands where we could say, look, these brands seem to sell well. We believe they've got a lovely surface to put a transfer on, or printer and embroidery. Have a play with these and see what you think. So I think every brand, the way I tend to advise customers, I say there's something lovely and special and pretty unique within every single brand. So we've got 120 brands. Most of them do a t-shirts. What's the difference? And it might be a particular color, it might be a particular knit, it could be a particular cut or a detail with, such as the collar or the sleeves. And my suggestion to people is find your look and find the best product within each brand for your look and your aesthetic. But every single brand has got at least a couple of pieces that stand out and do what they're trying to do really, really well.
It comes back down to that kind of what are you trying to achieve as a customer, right? And what are you trying to achieve to sell to your customers? It depends on what they're after, what their look's going to be. We'll then find our go-to product for that. So it's, I don't think we haven't got like a one go-to product. It sort of depends on the customer and what they want, but we'll always find something for them.
Yeah.
The thing I noticed as well on your site is that for most of the brands that are available, is always like is it a Rala deal? So like some of the sort of colors that go out of stock or are perhaps less popular, but you can always pick up some. You're not going to be able to take these and turn them into a brand because they will be odd numbers and odd sizes. But you could get the t-shirt, the cut will be the same, the fabric will feel the same, but you can just test and get to know decorating quite easily, even more inexpensively than you might imagine as well.
Yeah, I always think Rala there's some really good products on there, some good bargains to be had. So if the customer says, I just want a royal blue or a navy t-shirt, I'm not really worried which brand it is, you can filter to Rala Deal only on our website, and then you can say, show me t-shirts in a shade of blue. And you know, it's worth having a look because there's a significant saving on the cost of what the garment was when it was a continued line or a current line. The other aspect is it's really good for sampling. So if you've just got some new toys and you're learning how to apply the transfers, or you're learning what temperatures to do on different fabrics and that sort of thing, Rala Deal offers you an affordable way of going through that trial and error process. I mean, by all means, do it on a really nice garment as well. But I would always say to people, start on Rala Deal, because then you're completing your trial and error and getting to know your equipment on a cost-effective basis.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of price locks as well, which I thought was really, really good for people, because I know that the last couple of years has been a bit of a whirlwind for some, stock coming in and out. You know, it's become more difficult to get stuff into the UK, but it's really good to see as well that there's a lot. It's been very consistent, I think, over the last 12 months in terms of stock levels, stock colors. So I think anyone that's thinking about, okay, 2023 is my year, I'm going to start a new business, or I'm going to start a side hustle, it means that you can be like, okay, you can have that peace of mind as well of like, okay, yeah, prices are a bit more consistent now. I can get everything I need. So it means that if it does take off, I said to someone who came in the other day, you might just sell one t-shirt every week for the first couple of months. But that's okay. But it means that if you hit that right moment and you're like, actually, I need 100 or 200, you don't have to, you kind of got a lot more peace of mind now as well, sort of heading into 2023 and getting started.
Thanks for listening to the Target Transfers podcast. And just a quick reminder to don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on. Okay, now back to the podcast.
So have you got any advice for anyone that's perhaps thinking of starting a side hustle next year, thinking actually, I'm not sure what's going on with my bills. I'm thinking about, okay, I might start, I've got some good design ideas. What would kind of be the first steps? I know we kind of covered a lot about opening accounts. So if anyone wants to hear in detail about that, go and listen to our previous podcasts with you two, because there's a lot of really great information about starting and kind of the process you go through. But what advice would you give to anyone starting from, it's January 1st and they're starting afresh in 2023?
I think one of the things that we're moving into 2023 with is that as a supplier, we're here to kind of support you when you need it most. So if, say, they've gone through the account setup process, they're new, they've kind of spoke to us already. If they go on our website, there's all these different support areas. We do things like quick quote. They can book meetings with people on the website. So we're really kind of pushing the kind of support element to help these people get their business up and running. So really, a tap into us for that is probably the next step that I'd advise them to do.
Mm-hmm. I think probably just to add on to that as well, familiarize yourself with the basics.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably going to be a demand for good value for money from the end user, from our mutual customer. So we've got a whole host of really good solid basics. We're doing our absolute best to give price stability as well, because that allows people to look at an inquiry today and quote on it for next week, or quote on it coming into January. We're recording this mid-December, if you're listening afterwards. So I think certainly good basics, great value for money, great support is probably three key headlines I'd say for people to focus on. And I think right here and right now, that combination will lend itself really well to either growing an existing business. So, it might be someone running a signage business. They've got all the equipment to do transfers and apply those to garments, and they're looking to diversify. Or if someone's starting a business, that's a really good place to start here and now.
I think that's really good. I think it's worth noting as well, like Ralawise, much like ourselves, is that if you want to phone up and speak to someone, we're here to help. We've had last minute orders for shows and stuff where we had to get stuff from yourself, and someone's phoned up and like, yeah, don't worry, it's coming, it'll be with you tomorrow. But actually, I think that's something that's really great about the sort of UK garment industry, is that all the big companies have UK based customer service that are there to help you. I mean, like at least 9 to 5. So that means that no matter what you've got on, if you've got a question, even if you're doing it as a side hustle and you need to phone at lunchtime, you can get through, and there's rarely more than sort of a couple of minutes wait to speak to someone as well. It's not like you're going to be sitting there for an hour, like maybe if you're phoning an electric company or something at the moment. But it means that you can, there is like a support, and everyone kind of, I mean, I know that our event we did recently, Simon, you had a passion speak about actually we're partners for everyone. We're not just here to sell you stuff. We're here to be like, hey, it's in everyone's interest. We want to watch you grow. We want to make sure that you do it sensibly so that you succeed, and don't just like do it for 6 months and then give up.
Yeah, definitely. We're not kind of here to push products onto people if it's not going to work for them and be like, oh, you need to buy this because it's the best thing ever. We're here to kind of go, right, what do you want to achieve? And this is how we're going to help you achieve it.
One thing I kind of wanted to ask you both about, because I know that, if someone's starting out, there's a good chance they might speak to one of you two when they're along their journey. So, and the last time we spoke, we kind of touched upon, how to get started, sort of day one, week one, month one. But one thing I wanted to kind of to make sure that people don't do it, I guess, essentially is there anything that you notice people often make as a mistake? Perhaps we're talking more like 6 months in, they've done it for a little bit, and then they're like that kind of at that point where they're like, they've already kind of got keep going or give up, or there's like a mistake. They've been successful, but they're actually, for example, they forgot to pay themselves, or they've kind of simple mistakes that you see people making that kind of could make or break someone at the beginning. you'd like to be able to be like, okay, here's a platform to be like, don't do these things because or do this.
I've certainly got a couple. Do you want me to lead?
I'm trying to think.
Okay, so number one, and this is based on, so Kat and I between us have done new business for Ralawise for probably 25 years between us. So
if we add it together,
we've onboarded a lot of great partners. And one of the best things about the job, the thing that really gives us a lift is seeing someone that makes it. And they'll say, "Oh, I spoke to you last year," and we've covered this on our first podcast. But that really does give us a kick. Advice number one is remember to take some breaks. So we've all been there. It's make or break. I'm going to throw my all into this. I'm going to go gangbusters, and I'm going to do everything I need to do to make this work. Love that spirit. Love that vibe. Feel it, relate, but do take some breaks. Be it an early finish on a Friday. Be it weekends. Be it making sure you only do so many hours a week, because burnout can be real. And for a lot of our existing customers, our mutual customers or new starts, they're normally small headcount. So it's maybe one person doing everything, or there's a couple of friends doing it, or there's usually 5 people or less in some of our typical new customer businesses, and you can end up finding jobs to do 24/7. But I think take a break is probably a key one. Number 2 would be, and this is on the practical side, so many people get obsessed with starting a website, right?
Yeah.
So they get their business going, they've got orders coming through, they've got the suss out of where to buy the garments, and they're dealing with you for transfers. And then they'll decide, right, I'm going to build my own website because I'm going to generate all this traffic. I've got a search engine optimization idea, SEO in business speak. And trying to build a website is so hard. It's like you just constant, as you guys know, and we know, and anyone that's tried to do it is listening to this podcast going, it's true.
Yeah.
So if you've not tried to build a website and you want to, by all means, but what we tend to find is unless you're really, really technical and you can do it all very efficiently, and I'm talking about 5% of the people I've ever met here, it just becomes all consuming. So rather than focusing on your business and servicing your orders and invoicing your customers and managing your consumables and making sure you've got enough transfers on the shelf for when they next want some product, you end up spending all your spare time building a website. And then you'll change a color, we'll discontinue a color, and everything's out of date and you're starting again. So there's a couple of things. One is, if you want to build a website, we will share all of our data and imagery with you free of charge, no problem. Please, 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 if you are intimidated by building a website, don't. Number 2 is we sell a white label website offering as well, which is customizable to a large extent. You can choose which sectors or which products you show, or it might be that you import your own towels from Turkey, so you don't want to show any towels that Ralawise sell, but you will sell everything else. So it's really quite, it's a website in a box, and there's a monthly fee just to cover the cost of running it, and we develop it, and you can place orders through it. Your customer they can upload artwork, they can pay and check out on order cards that you normally pay for shopping online or PayPal. But certainly the website one seems to be, I'm up and running now. I've got hopefully I've got a tax bill on the way. My accountant says I need to reduce the profits a bit. I'll develop a website. And it does seem to be an Achilles heel where it probably looks quite easy. I'm not technical. It looks quite easy, but once you start doing it, it kind of sucks the life out of everything else that you're doing. So certainly for me, if you want to do a website, go for it. I shouldn't judge you by my own technical ability, but I've yet to see a lot of people do a great job of it. So I'd either say utilize socials, because with socials, you probably don't need to have a website, certainly in your infancy. You tend to find people get going by word of mouth, or they're a member of a sports club, or that they've got a friend who's in the community that has a need for garments. They run their own business, or they're involved in a school or something. So they've got contacts to sell to already. Or if they're running their own fashion brand and they're artistic and creative, Insta's the place to be. You've then got Etsy, Facebook. There's still a bit of that, but we see Insta being the main channel for that sort of business and utilizing the hashtags. So yeah, websites for me is probably one to be forewarned and forearmed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people when they first start out as well might be, I know you said about there being like smaller amount of people on the team, but a lot of people probably are starting this while maybe working as well, or,
Yep.
you know, they don't want to give up a full-time job, or maybe they're working part-time, and not everybody has the full week to give to their new business. If they do, they're very lucky or very silly, depending on the finance situation. But I think you're right. It's definitely something that you should be aware of, because, you know, from personal experience, Andy and I here, whenever we do anything website related, I'm like, right, give me 3 days, I'll be back. Like, it takes so much time, and, you know, ours is done, it's built, it's just like keeping it optimized, and it can take up a lot of time. And like you said, it's making sure that you're using all of those spare hours to really grow your business, not what you think you should have for a business. I think there's a bit of a stigma around people should have, you know, I'll go to whatever printshop.com and, oh, you're an official business now. Like, no, so many people make so much money through socials, through Etsy, through Shopify. As long as you've got that email list of customer data, which we've talked about a lot, then you're pretty much good to go.
Totally, you've nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. And I think probably 10 or 15 years ago, it was, as you say, it was kind of a mark of gravitas or kudos. So I've got a website, even if you've only just got going. I think times have changed. So yeah, but by all means, please do tap into our data. But if you feel that building a website isn't going to work out for you, talk to you guys about your bit, talk to us about our bit, and we'll find a way and help you to focus on keeping the business going and growing the business, which is what we're all here to do.
Yeah, or if that's something that's like, even if that is your end goal, is like actually start off without one, but say, okay, every order I make, I'm going to put 50p towards the website, and then at a certain point, well, I'll just pay someone to build it for me. Then it's not going to take that time away from you, but you still have that website you need.
It's about growing at a kind of a realistic rate as well. So I think sometimes people can they put this pressure on themselves to be like, right, I'm this and it's going well. I've sold a little bit, but I've got to sell so much more. I've got to do this. And I think it's quite easy for them to kind of be on that treadmill where it's getting a bit too quick. So it's all about kind of making sure you're enjoying it, picking the right products and selling to the customers that you want to sell to as well. And not just kind of feeling like you've got to grow your business at this crazy rate when you're doing it for enjoyment as well, aren't you? So
yeah, I think it's a lot of what works for the customer, isn't it? Like, we've had so many different people come in here for events and for one-to-one sessions, and everybody's business and the way they structure it and the way they run it is all so different. And I think it's just what works for you. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's just, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. This works for me. And then once you get to that point where you need to level up or take it to the next stage, you can talk to Ralawise, you can talk to Target, and we'll help you do that. But like you said, Kat, you don't need to go like all guns blazing for the first 6 months, year, or whatever it is, building a business. You need to grow it first. Is there anything that's coming out for Ralawise for 2023? Any new products that that our customers should be aware of?
Oh yes,
we've got some exciting.
Oh, this is exciting. I'm excited about this bit.
Yeah, one of the brands that I'm quite excited for is Nimbus Play. So as a few of our customers will probably know, Nimbus already as a brand. They, really nice quality products, great jackets, that kind of thing. But they've actually kind of set up a separate brand for more of the athleisure side of it. So there's some really, really good products coming from there as well, very much like leisure based as opposed to corporate. So yeah, that's one I'm most excited for.
And similar to what I'm wearing now, I suppose there's some really nice colours coming out. So sort of there's an expansion of the natural or the nude sort of shades. There's some really nice light, airy pastel colours coming down as well. So pinks and greens and light blues and washed out yellows. So again, for a creative person, I think there's a really good selection of colours coming out that will lend themselves really well to different prints and designs.
Yeah, we had a customer in for the Bella event, actually. You might remember, but there was somebody there with a black hoodie on, and they had a massive DTF print on the back, and the detail in the design of that print on the black hoodie just completely popped, and it stood out across the whole room. I think, yeah, like you say, for creative people this year, whether it's a really vibrant design on a classic black or grey or white, or if you want to venture out into more of a color option, there's so much more available now and coming into next year. And I am curious though, I wonder how many more neutral shades we can get. I know it's a massive trend, But surely there's only so many nudes that one company can produce. In terms of garment, that came out wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, if you look at the makeup set counter in Boots, there's a lot of different shades, isn't there? So
Very good point. Very good point.
I think we've got
Maybe
a long
we should
way
have a guess how many total we're going to have for next year.
I think something that's just kind of touching on the point that you've said there about the hoodie with the really cool design on it, something that we have noticed sort of looking through the new products for next year is that a lot of brands are kind of bringing in more of those core products, or they're kind of renewing and rejuvenating their core products. So I think we're going to see a lot of different hoodies, t-shirts, just so that those kinds of basics can cater for everybody. It's not like, oh, here's one hoodie and that's kind of it. There's so much more now, and people are really starting to focus on that. I think we'll see a lot of that next year.
When you say rejuvenate products, do you mean they're improving the quality of them, or they're just improving the fit, or what are they changing about them to improve them?
There's a bit of a mix of everything. So there's kind of some that are bringing out like an oversized fit, some that are bringing out sort of a slightly different fabric. So there's a mix really. So it just gives people a few more options, but in the very core styles.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think the oversized one has been a massive one this year, hasn't it? We've seen quite a few.
No
I know it's one of my personal favourites.
I love oversize.
Yeah,
it's now socially acceptable to wear it to work, which is my favourite thing. So I can turn up in an oversized jumper and it's fashionable.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I think another buzzword that we're hearing from our brands and our suppliers is the casualization of uniform and workwear.
Yeah.
So in the new for 2023, there's probably more garments coming out for uniform and workwear. And when we say workwear, we're speaking largely about what we call light workwear, so office wear, sort of front of house wear, so hotels, gyms, leisure centres, that sort of thing. So just standard uniform, really. Workwear is in trade, electrical, carpentry, plumber, builders. We cater for that as well. So we do highly functional, high performing, great value, hardcore workwear. But we're seeing a casualization in that sort of everyday uniform workwear market too. So there's some really nice stuff coming out that isn't quite as corporate-y and as boring as it used to be. And I think that trend's driven by the desire for comfort, the desire for a lighter fabric. Certainly in the summer, we had heat waves this year in the UK, didn't we, where it got a bit warm. And traditionally our workwear in this country is very thick, very heavy. So I think we'll see that trend continue to expand as the year goes on.
I would agree. I think that's feedback we've had from our customers as well. And I think the end wearer is a lot more educated on what a nice piece of workwear is now. So I think the demand, they're pushing it towards the business owner that's buying it from, the people who are listening to this podcast as well. They want something more comfortable. They want a better fit. So they want nicer things. Like, well, because they just understand fabric and clothing a bit more, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's that whole feel good factor, isn't there? If you're wearing something, doing your role or your job, and you're comfortable, you're confident, it performs how you need it to, there's that feel good factor. So there's a benefit to the employer because the employees feel motivated and valued and cared for, and there's also value to the clothing supplier that gives them the uniform as well, because they've managed to provide what the workforce were looking for. So I think workwear and uniform will continue to become very attractive, very appealing, and dare I say it, very trendy.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that. We'll assess in a few months.
We can edit that bit out.
The workwear one is an interesting one, actually. We've spoken about it a few times, and I think we've had conversations how I think it's a massive untapped market in terms of what heat printers think can be done and garments that can be decorated onto. So I take it you've seen a lot of your customers sort of dabble in the workwear market and then realize what opportunity is there and had sort of roaring successes.
Yeah, sure. Like it's because it is, like Simon said, it's not just kind of here's a shirt and that's it. It's, t-shirts, polo shirts, hoodies, like jackets, fleeces, body warmers, everything. Like, they really can explore those options with people. And, if they go in with a list of ideas, they can inspire their customer, so that the end user, to maybe try something a bit different as well. Like, maybe they've always worn their shirts and ties and that sort of thing, maybe you want to get them to try something new. It might just inspire them to give it a go.
Yeah, and I think. I'm sorry, Andy, go for it.
No, you go first, Simon. And
I was going to say that so workwear. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I think we as an industry, or maybe speaking personally for myself, I'm probably guilty of. I get quite excited about the latest band's T-shirt or the latest fashion label's print, and I look at it, I think, oh, that's a such and such garment. We sold it to the printer, and look what he's done. And that taps into our creative, artistic side. But actually, workwear is what we would refer to as bread and butter for us. So it's a perennial, it's an evergreen, it's always required. And if you think about all your small local businesses, your tradespeople, your big utility companies, the courier companies, supermarket shops, we could go on and on, security, car park, all of it, above the wing at the airport, below the wing, all these technical terms I've picked up over the years. Workwear and uniform is huge.
Yeah.
And in times of economic downturn, I don't want to get negative, but potentially as people are listening to this podcast, we're entering a period of economic challenges. I think workwear will still be there. There will still be a demand for it because it gets used, it gets worn, it gets dirty. It's your corporate image. People change, new recruits arrive at companies. But ultimately, I think there'll probably be a focus on good value, which is what we were touching on earlier. And I think our offering and our brand's offering, our suppliers' product offering is really well placed to offer the end user via our decorator customer great value for their workwear and their uniform.
I think as well with workwear, the reason it's a good opportunity for anyone listening to get involved with is that there's always multiples. There's always, some places have lots of big workforce, but they always have, it's not just like, there's 100 people there and they all get a t-shirt each. They get t-shirts, they get probably multiple t-shirts, multiple hoodies, jackets, hats, you name it. And it's a real chance for you to build your average order value up and then ultimately have a more successful business off the back of that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of different kind of products you can use for upselling. So like bags and hats are easy. You don't have any issues with sizing with those. So yeah, if you can accessorize workwear as well, then even better.
And we're finding a lot of councils are wanting to work with a local company now. So traditionally they just put it out to tender and gone with whoever came in on the best points on a tender document. And for those people who don't know what a tender document is, don't Google it. They're boring, boring and technical. We don't do them, obviously, because we deal with the printer or the embroiderer, but we will sometimes sit down with a partner who says, I've got to fill out a tender. My council is saying that they're going to send the refuse team or the gardening team out in all weathers. They've asked me for some summer wear, which is dead easy. I'm comfortable with that, but they've asked me for some winter wear products or some winter wear jackets or some high vis that conforms to a particular technical classification. Won't bore us all to death here and now with that, but we've got the in-house expertise where if a partner wants some advice and some assistance, or they've got a tender and it's about high vis and it's got to be classification 1.3 or whatever it is, we will work with you on that to give you the means to go and submit that tender, or just put a recommendation in. So that workwear is something that really we ought to be excited about and we ought to value and cherish, because as you've touched on, it's an evergreen, and I can't ever see that changing.
Are there any other industries that, obviously workwear is a massive one, but are there any other areas that you would advise people to look into selling to, or for obviously additional income streams? I mean, if you have a heat press and you have access to the garments and the transfers, there's so many different industries that you could tap into to make a profit in there. Is there anything in specific that comes to mind that you could recommend, as well as, your standard tee, your brand, and the workwear side of things?
Yeah, so something we see a lot of, especially with the newer customers, is like that kind of gifting, baby wear, like that industry's just gone off the scale, like particularly with the kind of twinning aspect, where you've got the mum or the dad and the kid all matching. So that sort of like personal gifting thing seems to be taking off massively. We're seeing so much of it. So yeah, that's probably one I tap into.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. I think we had a blog post, I think last week, about that. The similar sort of thing is that when you kind of work out how many babies were born this year and how many will be having their first Christmas this year. It's staggering. And so only like if you only sold some twin sets, the tiniest amount of that, you could probably run a whole business off the back of it.
Yeah, definitely. People want like a photograph for every sort of milestone as well. So, it's kind of like first Christmas, first Halloween, first Easter, like every birthday. Because social media is kind of driven that. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely one to have a look at. Did you have one?
You've pinched them all.
Oh, sorry.
No, only joke. I would just say don't ignore cafes and bistros and restaurants. So I think because of where we've been as a across the world with lockdowns and that sort of thing, probably cafes and bistros haven't been at the top of people's hit list in our sector. And when I say that, because they've been subject to being shut down, they've been open now for probably 8-9 months, maybe 12 even in some parts of the UK. But certainly next April onwards, we should see a fantastic sort of shirt, blouse, apron, or maybe a denim look to it as well. So I think any cafes, bistros, restaurants, tourist trade, that sort of thing, be tapping into that from the end of Feb to the end of March onwards, because the demand comes in mid-March and it runs all the way through to sort of June, July then. So that's a great sector to look at and market to if you're not already doing so.
I think as well on like cafes and restaurants as well is actually encouraging them to have their own merchandise range as well as just having the workwear that people are wearing. Is actually if you get the artwork done nicely, you could sell the same t-shirts to people that come in as tourists or fans of your restaurant. They're like, yeah, I want to support them. I know they've had a couple of hard years. People will happily do that, but I don't think enough places in the UK are doing that as an extra kind of revenue stream from the point of view of the cafe or restaurant as well.
It's a really good idea. There's a cafe by us they're very into like their eco-sustainable products. So all their like coffees done like sustainably. And they sell like bags, tote bags and t-shirts with some really nice designs that they've come up with. And obviously someone's printed it for them and they've gone through a printer for it. But they look really good and people do buy into it from them, and it's a great extra kind of income from them.
Couple that I'd like to really quickly plug as well, rather shamelessly, is Levers season is about to kick off.
Do you know what? That was on the tip of my tongue, and I was like,
is our 2023 Levers design template is free to download now. So if anyone wants a bit, and we did a webinar maybe like a month ago when we ran through the whole process of how to do it. It's really easy once you've done it a couple of times. So if you're thinking about offering Levers stuff, it's kind of February through to mid to late June is the season for it. So it's a really big opportunity. All the demonstrations we've done were with products we bought from Ralawise, so you can kind of get a full transparent picture of what it takes to put it together.
There's been so many orders already. I walked through the production house the other day and the amount of Levers designs that I saw for 2023, I was like, wow, people are getting in early this year.
And as well, school trips. So I think there's something that we've seen a lot of feedback recently, and we've actually had to create some stock designs to put on our transfer ordering systems. Like, here's some ones where you can just put here's London, but just put the school's name above it, that sort of thing, because there'll be a lot more. I think in the same way that cafes and restaurants should have a more normal spring summer, hopefully, is that actually you'll find that people traveling and schools traveling, universities, secondary schools, primary schools will all be starting to travel, but you need to have that conversation in the sort of the next month or so you can get that February, March half term, and then you can get the Easter holiday, then you can get activities a week later in the year. So now's the time to have those conversations, because again, that's 3 or 4 things that could repeat over the next 6 months.
Definitely, we'd echo that in the sort of seasonality of the sales we see in those sectors. So good, solid advice.
Yeah.
And I think we've had, just to touch on the Levers thing before we go, with the amount of people that we know or have had come in here that purely run their printing business just through Levers season, and then they don't work for the rest of the year because it's that profitable for those like 3 or 4 months. And then, I mean, obviously if you have the heat press like we've touched on, you're much more likely to be producing other things. But yeah, I was quite surprised. I was like, oh, I'd fancy half a year off. We could do that.
Well, I think they tell us they do a year's worth of work in 6 months.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, I don't have anything else I wanted to cover today. Is there anything that's come into your mind?
No, I think that's some really useful stuff for people who are sort of thinking about starting their journey, but the bottom line is don't be a stranger to any of us, because we're here to help. So we want to see you all succeed, and we want to make sure you do that sensibly and scalably. So if you have questions about transfers, get in touch with us, and likewise garments. With the reason we invite Ralawise on is because they are the experts in the UK, so they know more about blank products than anyone else. So we want to make sure you have access to them as well, so you can get everything you need to be successful that way.
100%. And we can't wait to do what's new for summer in a couple of months with you, if you'll be so kind.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, brilliant. Well, thanks so much for coming on, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us and help out our customers. But until then, that's okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll be back next week with another episode.
Thank you. Stay safe and see you soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, guys.